ga nu door in het Engels. So, getting started with mobile. Like Robbert said, that was my session at the Sitecore Symposium. And the getting started track was, well, it was a special track. Let's call it a special track. Because it's not a track for an in-depth technical session or an in-depth marketing session. But it's a track for where people go when they have Sitecore but want to do something with another technology like mobile or e-commerce and have never done anything with it before. So it's a track to get them started with that specific type of technology. So at the symposium I had a co-presenter who did a 5-minute introduction. I'm going to skip that introduction and just put it into my presentation because I essentially cover everything he talked around. So my name is Derk Hudepol. I work at Avanade and I, like Robbert and Bas, I'm also a Sitecore MVP. So, mobile. Who of you are already busy with mobile? Okay, that's less than I expected. So, talking around mobile, what am I going to tell you? I'm going to talk around why you should do mobile, why it's not an option anymore, getting started, so how do you get started, and how can you move to the future? What can you do in the future? So, if you think around mobile, the websites you develop, you own, you host, how many percent of the traffic do you think comes to your website? Is it 10%? Raise your hands. 20? 30? 40%? 50%? Even higher? Okay, it's between 40 and 50% actually. It's 44% in the last year. I recently even read that on e-commerce sites, 70% of all income generated is by mobile traffic in 2016. So it's not an option because if you don't do mobile, you lose 44% of your visitors, of your business. So you should definitely get there, right? I mean, you all thought it's at least 40%. That's kind of funny because at the symposium I had people raising their hands. Well, I think it's 10%. So it's definitely a lot more. So before we get started, what is mobile? Well, if I define mobile, I see 3 kinds of mobile. I see mobile web, a mobile app, or mobile connected. So having these 3 definitions, what is mobile web? Well, I think everyone here knows mobile web. You have perfect examples from Dell.com, which is a really good e-commerce website using mobile web. You have Sitecore.com, which recently, well, I think it's even the old site, but it's a lot better than it used to be. And yeah, I put our own brand here because we had a recent upgrade, but it's all mobile focused, mobile first, taking care of your mobile customer. So, a mobile app. This is the point where not all companies or all clients need to go. Because a mobile app is a heavy investment and not all brands or companies get that extra value from a mobile app. I took one example from Target, which is a really good example because they get a lot of value from their mobile app. It's a really good app. You download it, you go to the store, you have your little grocery list and you say, well, I don't know where to find my spaghetti. You click the spaghetti and you get an in-store map telling you where you are in the store and giving you a route to where you can find that spaghetti. And as soon as you're scanning your products, it's also giving you suggestions of what you might like with it, or a recipe like, well, you get these products, if you get this product also, you can make this recipe, it's really good. So they definitely get more value from their app, and their customers get more value because they have that app. It has use for them to download that app instead of just going to the mobile website. And the last is a little bit the future. And I got an example from Adidas. With their Neo brand, they created an in-store. Instead of window shopping, like you see a mannequin with clothes on it, they build an interactive screen in which you could use to sheet their products. And I actually got a video of that, and I'm going to clip of my audio so you can hear it, because we just found out the stereo is not working. And it's around 90 seconds, so bear with me. So, just clipping this up on again. So, what Adidas did was a really good example of what I call mobile connected. They created an experience outside of their web, outside of their offline hours in the store, because the store is open 8 hours, 10 hours a day. And they actually had a 24-hour shop and had a big turnaround in income. People went into the store more because they saw products they liked and they could try it out, and went in the store to try it on. And they even bought a lot of products outside of office hours, outside of opening times. And Adidas is not the only brand doing this. I've seen examples, especially in the States, because in the Netherlands it's not that big of a thing yet. But in the States they have like changing rooms where they have a camera which measures your sizes and comes with suggestions around which clothes you should get. And they have personnel bringing that clothes into that cabin or into that room to get you to buy that clothing instead of just walking away because you can't find the clothes that fit you. So now that we know what kinds of mobile we have, well, I'm definitely not going to take you to the mobile connected because it's a getting started track. I just want to have you see what you could potentially do with mobile. Instead, I'm going to get started with mobile on web, because that's where every company needs to start. Because if you have mobile web, you can gather data around your mobile users, and you can know if you need an app or if you need to go further than just an app. So, how to get started? What are the most important topics? Well, you definitely should go and ensure you know who your mobile users are. What do they want? What are their goals? You should not reinvent the wheel, as I like to call it. You should leverage existing frameworks which have been proven to work, and not build something because, well, you like building stuff. That's not a good thing for your customer. It's not a good thing for you because you get an unsatisfied customer in the end. You should make sure your content is valid for a mobile device. I've seen it happen a lot, that they have a really cool responsive website and still have a huge blob of text on the website. I'm not going to read that as a mobile user because I need to scroll endlessly to read that content. And last but not least, validate and test your mobile approach. So you've done a good mobile approach, but validate it before telling that to your business or going on in the approach you've taken. So ensuring you know your mobile visitor's goals. You need to ask yourself a couple of questions. So don't assume, well, I got a portal and no mobile visitor is going to visit my website because I tell them to. People don't listen to what you say. Investigate who your users are, what they're going to do, and why are they going to my website on a mobile device. Let's take an example of a commerce web shop. Studies have shown that a commerce user on PC is not browsing to buy, he's browsing to gather information. Then he logs off, he talks to his wife, to someone else, thinks about it, and there comes the point that he thinks, okay, I want to buy this, I want to buy this product. So they take their mobile phone, open up your website, and then browse to your website to buy, directly buy that product. They use your search functionality or whatever, but they buy that product, not to gather information. So your mobile user definitely has a different journey than your PC user. Your PC user was there to get information, but your mobile user is there to buy stuff. That's just an example. It can be different for your own situation, but those are the kinds of questions you need to ask. You need to ensure you know what they want to do. So, moving on to leveraging a framework. Why should you do that? Well, there are a lot of frameworks out there that offer you a responsive website, and which is extremely easy to give your own flavor to. I have an example down here where you can see that on one hand you have the bootstrap look, and on the other hand you have a custom look. It's just a little example of what you can do. I think SXA, which Robbert talked about, is a perfect example. You switch the theme, and instead of a wireframe theme you see a basic theme which is blue and a little bit white, and you don't even recognize the wireframe theme. And multi-site support. Let's say you have a multi-tenant, you have built something, and you told your client you can reuse this for every brand you have, and then that your client goes to an agency and tells them, well, we want you to develop the new styling. If you build something custom, that's going to be hugely expensive for your customer. Instead of, if you just tell them, well, you use Bootstrap, every agency knows that. Every agency can work with that and build that new styling for your customer, thus ending in a happy customer. And frameworks grow with new technologies. Most of the popular frameworks have a financial, commercial company behind them and are continuously improving their frameworks. So you don't need to make that investment to improve your own framework, your own code. So a couple of examples of good starting points. We have Pure, which is a really basic framework, which is perfect if you already have a site, but you want to make it responsive with a good basis behind it. The best thing around Pure is the grid framework. You can just take the grid out of it and have a responsive, mobile-able website. So, but let's say you don't have an existing website. You want to begin from the start. Then you can take a look at Bootstrap. I think everyone here knows Bootstrap. Who doesn't know Bootstrap? Yeah, everyone. So, Bootstrap is built by Twitter, a commercial company, really big. It's also really popular. Advantage of Bootstrap is everything has been done for Bootstrap. You have a plugin for everything. The disadvantages: every Bootstrap website is recognizable. You can pretty easily see if a site has used Bootstrap as its basis. So it's really hard to be unique using Bootstrap because they've gone really far in styling. You need to replace a lot to get your own. So, talking around popular frameworks, I also want to talk around SERP Foundation. Who here doesn't know SERP Foundation? Okay, that's a lot more. SERP Foundation is the biggest competitor of Bootstrap in regards to popularity with digital agencies or, well, let's say front-end developers. Because Foundation isn't like Bootstrap in the regards that it doesn't push their own styling. It just gives you a framework which is really bare, which has a couple of colors. And if you use their SASS files, they have provided a lot of mix-ins which allow you to just say, I don't want your basic styling, I just want to use your mix-ins and create my own CSS file, which makes it really easy to create unique unique websites which aren't recognizable to be from the SERP Foundation. Within Avanade, we've actually used this for our own accelerator in the States, and I know of the most digital agencies we work with directly that they prefer SERP Foundation at the moment because it's so easy to use. It's a lot less effort to implement than Bootstrap, and it's more mobile first. Bootstrap still uses jQuery, which is pretty heavy on a mobile device, and Foundation from version 6 and up switched to a mobile framework, which is a lot more lightweight for the mobile device. And last but not least, semantic UI. Buzz talked around it a little bit as well. SEO score. Semantic UI focuses a lot on SEO score because everything is semantics. And if your website is not semantic, machines don't know how your site is structured. If you just use divs everywhere, Google gives you a less good rating than when you use semantic HTML, which says this is a header, this is a footer, and this is an article. Semantic helps you with that, making descriptive frameworks, websites. So, making sure your content is valid for mobile. One thing to take into consideration is the speed of a mobile device or your mobile network. Since the symposium was in the States, I took the top 5 cabled internet and compared them to the mobile providers, and you can see that it's at best it's a fifth of the performance of your broadband internet. That means you need to take into consideration media sizes. I've seen a lot of websites who just put their big media poster on there, high resolution, 4 megabytes, but hey, internet's fast, right? Well, not on a mobile device. It takes ages to load that image. So definitely use the possibilities Sitecore offers with maximum sizes, maximum image resolutions to make sure your media is small enough for a mobile device. Another part is animations. Animations can be really cool, but make sure they're necessary. Because if they're not necessary, you don't want them on a mobile device. It's heavy for the device because it takes processing power, but it's also a lot of data it needs to load before it can actually do something. And postbacks. I recently been on a project where the architect of the company, of the client we were working for, was like, we want to use postbacks because we know that. But postbacks are really, really old and not the best on a mobile device because you're posting a lot of data every time. No. It was also with the insurance company, but I definitely didn't choose that example. But good example. Well, but on a mobile device you want to make your postback as small as possible, so you want to use Ajax. You want to make sure that if you post a form and you just want to say, well, thank you for filling in this form, you just get back that little text. Just those 4 or 5 bytes. And content is not around technology all the time. Like I said, content is also around how much text you have on your website. One of our own clients, our mother company actually, is Accenture.com, and they moved from their old website, which I took from the Wayback Machine on the right hand, to the new website on the left hand, and they dropped 88% of their content because of their market research. They discovered 88% of their content wasn't relevant. They discovered most of the people didn't even read it. So you can already see that if you compare the two sites, here's a lot of text, you have a couple of tabs, and over there it's just minimized to be concise and direct. So the strategy they followed, if my clicker's working, okay, is that they had 3 major pillars. They had less is more, content is engaging, and content is concise. So less is more, quality over quantity. That's actually what I talked around in my introduction, where I said like, okay, I have this big, this amount of text, but that's not quality. Most of the time, it's just a lot of text around a little marketing theme you want to describe. Make sure you just post the text with the quality, with the thing that's interesting for your customer. Only convert powerful content. Well, that's actually related to the quality of quantity. I mean, if your content is powerful, you have quality. The content is engaging, so easy to consume. It also says in content is concise, snackable content elements. You need to make sure that if a visitor visits your site, they look at the text and think, okay, yeah, I get that, and they can go away. It just takes 5 to 10 seconds to get what your page is all about. And make sure it's visually interesting, so no ugly sites. Make sure your site is pretty to look at and it's visually represented really good. So Sitecore helps you to do relevant content for your end user. Let's say your desktop user does need different content than your mobile user. By example, you want to explain it a little bit more. I saw an example where a client had a table around the product on their desktop PC, but they realized that on a mobile device it wasn't readable, so they wanted a PDF link over there. So you can use the Sitecore rule set to determine which device your visitor is visiting on, and say, okay, well, if it's a mobile device, I'll show this link instead of the big table I have over here. And Sitecore, and I think a lot of you know this simulator. Who of you doesn't know this in the preview functionality? Yeah, definitely Gert. So this is the simulator. If everyone knows, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it simulates screen size, not a mobile device. That's the important thing to know about it. If your website looks good in the simulator, it doesn't necessarily mean it looks good on a mobile device. Definitely test your website, your page on an actual mobile device. And you can use analytics. And I don't know how much of how much marketeers do we have here, except for Gert Maas over here. Not a lot. Okay. So you have a specific page inside the analytics of Sitecore, which tells you a lot around the devices your visitors are visiting on. Not only is it mobile or is it PC, but it even goes into, is it an iPad, which iPad is it an iPhone, is it an Android phone, and it goes on, and you can see what kind of value these visitors generate, and you can look at their journeys. And you can measure conversion per device. So I already showed you the rule that you can set a rule to set certain content for certain devices. You can also go as far as saying, I have a goal, and I only want this goal to trigger if this user triggers this goal when they use an Android device. And that goal you can see in the profile, you can see it in your analytics, you can do something with it. Now the technical tests. We have mobiletest.achmea.com, which use an actual device on an actual mobile network to measure the load performance of your website. And I actually used for the symposium we had the legal habitat demo as a demo website. So I put it up on an Azure VM and I tested that one. It's not really optimal for a mobile device, to be quite honest. They have some work to do there. But you can see what resources load slowly, which are too big. You can definitely see how you can improve your page load times. And this was on iPhone 6 on AT&T in the States. And it's free. That's good as well. It doesn't cost you anything. Then we have the mobile checker from W3C. This one doesn't check on performance, it checks on standards. Do you follow the standards which allow a mobile device to render your website correctly? And there's also a test for your regular website, but this is specific for mobile devices. It makes sure that you follow the standards needed to show your website on a mobile device and have it rendered correctly. And you can see again that they have some work to do on the Habitat demo to make it fully mobile optimal. One example of who's doing it pretty well, I ran these tests as well. But this was a big success for Accenture.com as well. They actually had an uptake of 20% in leads turning into customers by their migration of the site. So To recap, what do you need to avoid? Build a mobile platform without knowing your mobile visitors. Don't think you know your customers. Know your visitors. Know your customers. Reinventing the wheel. Always reuse something that's already been built. Then you know you have got something that works. Especially have something like SERP, where a digital agency actually uses that in practice, or Bootstrap, which Twitter uses on a day-by-day basis. Don't create exactly the same content as on a PC, because I can tell you right now that's not the content a mobile visitor wants to see. And create a mobile website and not do any validation. You need to make sure you know your mobile website is performing quite well. So now that we've talked around how you can get started, let's move on to the mobile future. What can you do after that your mobile web is efficient, it works really well, but you need something more. So you can go further. You can create a native app using the Xamarin SDK provided by Sitecore. This was actually told by my co-presenter. He was like, okay, we have an SDK for mobile, for Android, for iPhone, for Xamarin. You can use that to get content from Sitecore. But a really important point, you cannot out of the box collect analytics from your mobile app in Sitecore, not yet. In 8.3 with the X-Connect Robbert talked around, this is possible, but at the moment, no analytics unless you do heavy customizations. I saw you looking, so yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely advise, if you're thinking about it now, just wait until 8.3 is out. That makes life a lot easier if you can upgrade. And you can reach more devices than just mobile phones or PC users or desktops, because mobile isn't just your mobile phone. It can be a Raspberry Pi. It can be any device out there. It can be a beacon. It can be a television, or television beamer. Anything that has a CPU in it. So, this doesn't really apply to you, because most of you haven't been to the Sitecore Symposium. But imagine a Sitecore Symposium, and this one was especially powerful, where you are informed when there are long waiting lines for lunch. There were really long waiting lines. So you could create an app which, for you, can advise you what will be a good next session. Informs you, you're on the toilet and your session is starting in 5 minutes, you get an alert, finish it, run, because your session is going to start. And maybe even let the catering know what you like to eat, so they can prepare a plate for you. Well, that's wishful thinking, but it would be great. So, what platform do you want to land on? You should take into consideration statistics. So, whom of you are surprised that Android has such a large market share, like 80%? Okay, well, this is globally, yeah. Well, actually, that was the point I was going to, but no problem. So one side note on this slide is that this is not the actual amount of devices owned currently. This is the trend into sales. So these are the devices sold in 2015. 80% of all devices sold were Android. So I got really nice statistics which are global, but keep in mind this doesn't necessarily pertain to your platform. Measure it using your own analytics, because you can think this applies to me as well, but you can have a customer in a specific kind of business which doesn't have a lot of users, but instead you're Apple. I think then you definitely have 90% iPhone users, or 80%. It's not this image.
This is exactly the power of User 360 that is next year closing gap. And if you want 60% of all the users, because they have to provide.
It's always been a pretty heavy competition. So what platform do you want to land on? Well, let's assume you're working with Xamarin. You should land on every platform, but you can start with Android, then go to iPhones, and then go to the other platforms. Well, actually, it's just one platform you can then land on, this, which is Windows Phone. And I would be really glad if you do that, because I have a Windows Phone. But but look at how much which visitors you want to help first, and that's your major visitor base. So what tools do you need to get started with apps? Well, like I told you, they have a couple of SDKs. There's no out-of-the-box support for interaction yet, but if it's there, use the XDB API, or build it yourself, which I don't recommend at this point. I think it's a wasted effort if you can migrate to 8.3. Which I say below, you can implement it using Sitecore APIs. It's just a lot of work, and you need to do some redundant stuff like create virtual pages so that Sitecore can actually track it like a visit to a page. And Xamarin is a good starting point. The performance is just like a native app, and you have quick integration with Sitecore using that Xamarin app. And the first is the most important one, I think. You cover all bases. You can start with something, you can start on one platform, but you're not limited to that one platform. And if you're all using Microsoft, it's easy to get because Xamarin was bought by Microsoft recently. Next steps. Well, if you're not already doing mobile web, get started with it. Analyze what your mobile visitors want or what they need. And you can then build a native experience if you want. The resources available, well, one of them is me. You can ask me any question you'd like by emailing me. I'm available all the time. And you can visit the websites around the framework site talked around and the getting started with Xamarin. Thank you all for your attention.